Parmeshwar Bava. Let's begin with the top stories you need to know. Well, Israel has approved a United States brokered ceasefire agreement with Lebanon's Hezbollah, setting the stage for an end to nearly 14 months of fighting linked to the ongoing war in the Gaza Strip. But just as the deal was announced, Israeli warplanes kept up the most intense wave of strikes in Beirut and its southern suburbs since the war began. US President Joe Biden has called Israel and Hezbollah ceasefire agreement good news and expressed hope that the pause in more than 13 months of fighting will be catalyst to also end the war in Gaza. A joint statement of G7 foreign ministers is set to avoid mentioning the International Criminal Court's arrest warrant for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, despite an effort by the Italian hosts to find a common position on it. A Bangladeshi court has denied bail to prominent Hindu leader Chinmoy Krishnadas Brahmachari, arrested on sedition charges, and sent him to prison, triggering protests by community members in various locations, including the capital Dhaka. Australia's House of Representatives has passed a bill that would ban children younger than 16 years from social media. Well, in a significant development, Israel has approved a US brokered ceasefire agreement with Lebanon's Hezbollah, marking a potential end to nearly 14 months of intense fighting that has been linked to the ongoing war in Gaza. However, just as the ceasefire deal was announced, Israeli warplanes launched their most intense wave of airstrikes on Beirut and its southern suburbs since the conflict began. But according to local authorities, at least 24 people were killed in these strikes, as Israel made clear its intention to continue heavy bombardment of Hezbollah positions until the ceasefire officially takes effect, which is at 4 a.m. local time today. This deal includes a US-led oversight committee to monitor implementation and also address violations. But let me tell you why it matters. This agreement, which was also approved by the Lebanese side, will end more than a year of fighting between Israel and Hezbollah. It will also allow hundreds of thousands of civilians on both sides of the border to gradually return home. We have reactions from the Israeli Prime Minister and the US President lined up for you. Listen in.
חיזבאללה יפר את הפסקת האש לא רק אם הוא יירה עלינו, הוא יפר את ההסכם גם כשהוא ינסה להתחמש כדי לירות עלינו בעתיד. על כל הפרה שלו נגיב בעוצמה.
We, along with France and others, will provide the necessary assistance to make sure this deal is implemented fully and effectively. Let me be clear. If Hezbollah or anyone else breaks the deal and poses a direct threat to Israel, then Israel retains the right to self-defense, consistent with international law, just like any country when facing a terrorist group pledged to that country's destruction. At the same time, this deal supports Lebanon's sovereignty, and so it heralds a new start for Lebanon, a country that I've seen most of over the years, a country with rich history and culture.
My colleague Natasha Esrani joins us from New York now. She's been tracking all the finer details very closely. Natasha, Joe Biden spoke from the Rose Garden, as you've been reporting, about the US brokered ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon. What did he emphasize, and how does all this reflect on his administration's broader challenges in the Middle East, particularly the unresolved efforts to broker a deal between Israel and Hamas?
Well, good morning from New York. For President Biden, with just less than 2 months left now before he leaves office, this is a major achievement given all that's been going on in the Middle East. So he called this ceasefire deal between Israel and Lebanon as a permanent cessation of hostilities, really hoping to put it in the larger context of the Middle East and emphasizing that US troops will not be on ground. They will be involved in humanitarian aid, in monitoring the terms of the ceasefire agreement. As the report also said, the withdrawal of Israeli forces from southern Lebanon and the again regaining that ground by Lebanon, by the Lebanon army. So all of that is going to be closely watched by the U.S. And then towards the end of his speech, President Biden really talked once again about Hamas and Israel and how he continues to try, even over the next 2 months, he's going to continue to try brokering a deal there by talking to Turkey and Qatar and Israel. But that seems unlikely with such less time left now. But another highlight was the agreements that he wants to push between Saudi Arabia and Israel, which can also lead to possibility the recognition of a Palestinian state, which is really at the key, really at the core of this ongoing violence. And President Biden was also clear in calling out that people in Gaza need help. He called it hell. That's the word that he used, what's going on in Gaza and with assault also on civilians. But what he can actually achieve in the next 2 months is we don't really expect that to happen, but he's certainly pushing for it. And Donald Trump, who will be the next president of the United States, has said that he will bring peace to the Middle East. How he's going to do that remains very, very unclear.
Well, Natasha, thanks so much for joining us with the latest update. One cannot deny that this agreement is a significant achievement for Joe Biden, since he has been pressing the diplomatic buttons for a few weeks now. But whether it will last is a different matter that many critics are skeptical of. Many are highlighting they are watching this very closely. Also, for further clarity, from Tel Aviv, we have with us executive editor of the Jewish Insider, Melissa Weiss. Thanks so much, Melissa, for making time for us on NDTV. Netanyahu has also openly said that he will use the ceasefire to replenish the forces. US officials, meanwhile, have highlighted that it is impossible to sign a ceasefire agreement if Israel can shoot at anything it wants in Lebanon whenever it wants. Would you then say this agreement is fragile?
I mean, I think when it comes to Lebanon and when it comes to Hezbollah, there are a few things that are true. One is that Israel has been very prepared for an eventual war with Hezbollah for many years in a way that they were never prepared for the war that they are now engaged in with Hamas. They knew the Hezbollah threat. They knew that there were more than 100,000 rockets and missiles aimed at Israeli population centers. They knew where Nasrallah was. They knew where other senior Hezbollah leadership was. And they were able to go into Beirut, to go into southern Lebanon and take out these threats in very strategic, well thought out ways that took years and years to plan. Case in point, the walkie-talkie and the pager incidents. That's the kind of thing that does not just happen overnight. That takes a lot of planning. And so I have to think that there is a broader strategy at play here, and then Netanyahu deeply understands the risks of letting Hezbollah go, of not removing Hezbollah from power. But I think there's something else that is a deeper challenge, and I don't think that any of the parties, including Israel, have really grappled with the broader challenge, which is that in order for Hezbollah not to be a threat to Israel or to the Lebanese people, I don't know how you do that without some sort of civil conflict in Lebanon, because Hezbollah is so deeply entrenched, not just in southern Lebanon, but in the government in Beirut.
Right.
I don't know how you remove Hezbollah from its hold on Lebanon and the Lebanese people and the Lebanese government without some sort of regime change, of major movement. So I think there are a few challenges ahead, both for Israel and for Lebanon, and we'll see how it goes.
Melissa, how do you see Iran in this new dynamic?
I mean, that's a very good question. We know that Iran's foreign minister is headed to Europe on Friday, where he'll be meeting with the, not foreign minister, deputy foreign minister. He'll be heading to Europe later this week, where he'll be meeting with the deputy foreign ministers of a number of European countries. Iran is under immense pressure right now, having last week been sanctioned by the International Atomic Energy Agency. We also know that Iran's defenses are not what they were a year ago or even 6 months ago, after Israel took out missile defense and aerial systems. So the extent to which Iran could attack in a significant and sizable way is really, it's an open question, but it's one that, judging by Netanyahu's comments tonight, he does not feel particularly threatened in this moment. But things in the region, as you know, can change on a dime, and we could be waking up to an entirely different reality in the morning.
Well, Melissa, thanks so much for joining us on NDTV. We will, of course, revert to you for regular updates as and when things move faster. In other news, a joint statement of G7 foreign ministers is set to avoid mentioning the international districts, including Dhaka, Chattogram, Khulna, and Dinajpur, as per local reports. Well, Chinmoy Krishnadas's arrest has now sparked deadly clashes in Bangladesh. We're actually hearing reports of one lawyer who's been killed. But with that, let's also get you news from Pakistan, where jailed former Prime Minister Imran Khan's supporters reached the heart of Pakistan's capital after removing barricades and battling the police in clashes that killed 6 security personnel and injured dozens. 4 paramilitary rangers and 2 policemen were killed late on Monday, and over 100 security personnel were injured when protesters marching towards a chowk in Islamabad turned violent, prompting the federal government to deploy the army in Islamabad, along with shoot-at-sight orders, as per state media reports. I can inform you that a case was registered under the Anti-Terrorism Act against Mr. Khan and other Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf leaders over their alleged role in the killing of a police officer during the protest march, as per local media reports. For a quick update from Ground Zero, we have with us Mazhar Abbas joining us, political analyst from Islamabad. Mazhar, has the situation worsened in Pakistan? We are reading reports that highlight the Pakistan Army has been stepping in and issuing shoot-at-sight orders under Section 245?
Now the situation is between what the federal government, obviously led by Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, they are not ready to give up. They are trying that, yes, they are worried about the situation, and they know that the situation can take any turn at any moment. So they definitely want that this political crisis be over. But as we speak now, it appears that both sides have taken the hard lines, although there are people on both sides who want and who are in contact with each other to resolve the crisis. But there are hardliners also. And apparently the hardliners are predominating in Tehreek-e-Insaf. And the moderate or people within the PTI who want some kind of a compromise or some kind of a solution are on the back seat now. So, and similarly, the hardliners within the government and Pakistan Muslim League, they are very clear that if we, succumb to the pressure, then they'll celebrate it as their victory. It's a no-win situation at the moment, and hopefully in the next 24 hours or 48 hours, something dramatic will happen. And obviously, obviously the government has empowered the army also under Article 245 of the Constitution, that in case situation goes out of control, the army can act.
Well, Mazhar Abbas, thank you so much for joining us with the latest update from the neighborhood. It is a tense situation in Pakistan as we speak, but here's hoping things ease out. Protesters in Pakistan have defied police warnings, as we are hearing, and been demanding the release of former Prime Minister Imran Khan. In fact, tens of thousands of citizens from across Pakistan, as you can see a glimpse of on your screens, descended on the streets of Islamabad with sticks and stones, is what we're hearing. With that, let's get you a quick update from Australia, where in a landmark move, Australia's House of Representatives has passed a bill that could make it the first country in the world to ban children under 16 years from using social media. The bill now heads to the Senate for final approval, but if passed, it will mark a significant shift in how the country regulates online platforms, aiming to protect young users from potential harms associated with social media use. But the major parties have backed the bill that would make platforms including TikTok, Facebook, Snapchat, Reddit, X and Instagram liable for fines of up to 50 million Australian dollars, that's 33 million US dollars, for systemic failures to prevent young children from holding accounts. The legislation, by the way, I must inform you, was passed with 102 votes in favour to just 13 votes against. Well, news and updates continue in a moment, right after this very short break. Don't go anywhere. Well, a quick update from Bangladesh, where a court has denied bail to prominent Hindu leader Chinmoy Krishnadas Brahmachari, arrested on sedition charges, and sent him to prison, triggering protests by community members in various locations. This includes the capital Dhaka and the port city of Chattogram as well. Protests have broken out, demanding Mr. Das's release in different districts like Khulna and Dinajpur, as per local reports. But for quick clarity from Ground Zero, let's go across to our guest who joins us currently from Dhaka. We have Mohammad Kamruzaman joining us, senior journalist. Thank you so much for making time for us on NDTV. Now, Chinmoy Krishnadas's arrest has sparked deadly clashes, is what we are reading. What's the state of affairs on Ground Zero at the moment? We're also seeing reports of a lawyer being killed amid these protests.
Thank you very much for taking me. Actually, now the situation in the southern port city of Chattogram really very tense, because the young lawyer who was brutally murdered, and many pictures of that lawyer are very available on the social media, very decomposed picture, and people are so much agitated because of that picture. And many local media, citing local sources, reported that that lawyer, who was a junior government solicitor, was brutally murdered by the supporters of Chinmoy Krishnadas, who was detained, yesterday, day before yesterday, and produced before the Chittagong court. And there was a sedition case against that Hindu leader, but the court denied bail. That's why the supporters of Chinmoy was very much agitated in the court premises. But the incident of murdering a lawyer on broad daylight was very much unexpected, and people are agitated. However, one of the advisors of the interim government led by Nobel Peace Laureate Professor Muhammad Yunus asked the people to keep patience until the finishing of a proper investigation. Actually, there was no clear statement from the police who were behind this brutal murder. But according to local media, the supporters of Chinmoy was actually responsible for that murder. But until the completion of a proper investigation, people should keep patience. And the issue of Hindu-Muslim clashes may be propagated, and that may create further chaos in the whole country.